It's Dave. It's Duncan. A very refreshed Duncan. Back from Metal Epidemic for another album review.
Refreshed, Duncan.
Refreshed.
Did you or did you not give me albums to listen to while I was on vacation? Kind of sounds like I had to take my work with me.
But were you chilling when you were listening to those albums?
Dave, there's only one way to listen to albums on the Metal Epidemic, and that is vigorously. So
Right.
I've listened to these a lot. In fact, in the bulk session of recording we have tonight, there may be one album that has been listened to an inordinate amount of time. So we'll get to that later on. But Dave, what are we doing first? First one back from vacation. What are we doing first?
First one back. We've been checking out the new album from Portland progressive sludge duo Semuta.
Duo? Portland? See, I have to be surprised when it's... I would have said American, couldn't pick where, but duo is kind of... It's the year of the duo, man.
Oh, yes, it is. The band's new album, Glacial Erratic, will be released on May 24th. Self-released. Semuta is the duo of guitarist, vocalist Benjamin Caragol and drummer Ben Stoller, former members of noted Rose City bands Burials, Dark Numbers and more. Together as Semuta, the two summon a mournful strain of sludgy post-metal marked by enthralling songcraft and passionate execution.
So both of them are called Ben. That's going to get really difficult.
Yeah, Ben and Benjamin. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know when you're called Benjamin, you're shortening that. So it makes it easy for me because I can now just say Ben's performance is incredible on this album. It covers me. It's a catch-all.
Clever.
So.
That's clever. Mixed by Scott Evans at Anti-Sleep Audio and mastered by Brad Boatwright.
We don't know who this guy is, and I'm not saying that because he's been stepping out on us and he's doing other podcasts now, right? We're not going there. I mean, I used to be in love with someone called Brad Boatwright. I don't know if this is the same guy. I don't know, but yeah, we love you, Brad. We love you, Brad.
This is the debut full length from Glacial Erratic.
Just throwing out debuts that are like ridiculous quality. What the fuck?
Which depicts an ocean of melancholy punctuated by triumphant swells. Caragol states, when I was a kid, all I really cared about was metal, but around the time I was 15 or 16, I started to branch out. A big moment for me was seeing Radiohead for the first time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I had never seen a group of musicians so willing to dispense with conventions and explore such a wide array of sounds. After that, I was drawn to heavy bands that experimented with sonics, odd times and emotive melodies, bands like Neurosis, Converge, Godspeed. I really appreciate music that pushes boundaries while maintaining a lot of feeling. I want the music we make to be ambitious, but I also want it to resonate with people emotionally. Cargill's goal was to create music that challenges the mind whilst stirring the soul, and it has been realised with Glacial Erratic, an album likely to hook the ears of any fan of progressive heavy music, from Russian circles to Cave-In and beyond. Revealing the themes at play behind the new album, Caragol states, most of our songs are about the ways in which human systems are failing us, governments waging endless war, corporations hoarding wealth and exploiting natural resources at the cost of an inhabitable planet, the abandonment of persecution and our most vulnerable populations. It's hard to look at our civilization and not see a gaping wound, and most people bury their heads in the gutter of social media and vapid entertainment, a desperate attempt to hold on to fleeting moments of joy as the world around us falls apart. So, this new album, 5 tracks, about 38 minutes in length. So, Semuta, completely new band to me, which is, understandable, being their album.
I was already these guys. I heard the demo sessions. I was in the room with them.
They actually had an EP from 2020, I think it was.
Right.
But that was written and recorded just by one of the bands, Benjamin Caragol.
Yes.
And that happened during the pandemic. But now a duo, which
this year, man, honestly, just like I'm gonna say,
love a duo,
that some people out there will say that you need you need a minimum of 3 people to be in a metal band. No. And what I'm saying is the last 3 years have, in my eyes, just said that bass players are no needed. Like they're an endangered species, is what I'm saying. I think there are many bands showing that particular instrument is overrated. Not taking shots. I love the bass guitar. Really don't want to upset our bass friends. But yeah.
But even with the addition of a drummer to the band, this album, this debut, sounds like even more fleshed out and even more focused than the EP was from 2020. Obviously 4 years have passed since the EP as well, so as expected, that bit of time has given them a bit of a chance to build their sound. And a lot of the press release rings kind of true with this. It does have a very kind of sludgy bass to it. It's hella girthy, but the production's got a lot of weight to it, and the grooves on the album like come at you with plenty of force. But that kind of sludge is just the kind of bass sound of this band, the kind of foundations, I suppose. I think it's what they do on top of that makes this more interesting, just like a standard sludge album. Firstly, you've got all of these really like cool progressive flurries and the riffs and the time signatures that are really engaging on the album, and I love that they incorporated that even through the grooves on the album, like giving you a huge like kind of headbanging riff, but they'll throw like an offbeat into it or like a misplaced snare, and it just kind of changes the feel of things. So from like a technical point of view, like they've moved on in a big way from that 2020 EP, but also it's like so much tighter. Like this is, and like I've said before in previous reviews, I love duos. Like I absolutely love a duo. There's a chemistry that is really, really difficult to compete with.
There's also nowhere to hide.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. In your sound, there's absolutely there's only 2 people in the band. There's nowhere to hide in your sound. No. You can't hide a maybe. I don't. Why do I keep going to the bass player? You can't hide a maybe inadequate bassist and in the mix of a band. You can't do that, right? So like there's no space at all for mistakes. No. And you can tell the ones that are locked in very, very quickly and the ones that are not.
This is so in sync. Every twist and turn that this album takes, the 2 members are just, they feel completely fused together. Even when it gets heavily progressive and the riffs and the fills become even more kind of extravagant on the album, there's a part at the end of A Distant Light where it gets a bit like that. Even at those parts, it never loses that kind of cohesion between the 2 members. It's also worth mentioning that this is just 5 tracks and the album clocks in over 38 minutes. So these guys, as you can imagine, aren't afraid to really like tease sections out and build them up before hitting you with a big moment on this release. Tracks like A Distant Light show a real range and like kind of dynamics and clever songwriting where they really showcase this almost like another ace up their sleeve in the kind of melody of the album. This isn't like a typical album a typical sludge album even that that remains at a certain level of heaviness and stays there. This album gives you everything, like from minimalist kind of clean pick guitars, kind of reverb soaked drums, right through to this kind of thunderous sludge, and it's very, very seamlessly done. The title track is a great example of that kind of type of movement, from a slow burn intro into something that sees them echoing bands like Mastodon or Baroness even. And vocally, it sits within a similar style to those bands as well. The vocals never get too like extremely gravelly or anything like that. They're always fairly clean, but with like varying levels of it. Some of the heavier parts get a bit more layered, a bit more kind of shouty, just to give it a bit of power, but the melody is always there, and it's something they're very good at. The more kind of intimate harmonies especially, they're more subtle than a band like Mastodon, and probably more in line with Baroness and that side of things, but they don't overuse it either, which I think helps them actually stand out a bit more. I noticed like there was a little touch, and I don't want to piss the band off, but there was a little touch of Dave Grohl in his voice at times as well, just in the kind of softer parts on the songs, not in a bad way at all, but just occasionally I'd be like, oh, that's a wee bit kind of a bit Grohl-esque. I need to like, as a drummer myself, I need to mention the drumming.
Get out the way. Look at you can see you've been like fucking bouncing in your chair.
There is a ton to appreciate from a drumming perspective on this album. Ben Stoller has that kind of like the kind of dexterity of a Brand Daler, but from Mastodon. But I think
it's very creative on the kit.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But I think he's also very controlled as well. He doesn't overdo it. So like I feel like there's some drummers where that they like to kind of fill things out and they fill a lot of space a lot of time. He doesn't do that. He's quite happy to sit in a groove if it benefits the song rather than just adding in a fill because it sounds cool. So I really enjoyed his playing on the album. It's really, really inventive, and you can hear he's very, very in control of his playing. Obviously playing for a long time. I was thoroughly enjoying this album. I thought, this is a really kind of solid release.
Get to it, Dave.
Before the kind of last track hit on the album, and I was waiting for that kind of push into something bigger, something grander, a moment where they'd kind of take it to that next level. And then the final track, Wounds at the Stem, was where I was like, okay, this is giving me a glimpse into what this band could become going forward. It's fantastic. It's everything that Semuta have delivered on the previous tracks, but even more expansive, even more immersive. It sounds huge, and it was just
shades of Mountaineer.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. Because there's a lot of that kind of echoey, kind of clean stuff they put in through the kind of heavier parts, and I felt like it was just what the album needed to kind of go out on a high. It was like that's exactly what we needed right at the end of that album. It's a bit longer than everything else, but it really hears them kind of fleshing stuff out and getting more expansive, which I loved. My only kind of small gripe on the album was sometimes I felt like the chorus wasn't quite defined enough for me. Like there's a couple of tracks where I was like, is this the chorus? Or I'm not too sure, because they don't tend to over repeat things too much on tracks, even though like they are quite long. So I felt like there was points I was like, this could be the chorus, but I'm not 100% sure. So that was the only thing I was like, I wish it was slightly more defined at times. But that aside, like for a band on their debut, like this is showing crazy amounts of promise very early on. And as I said, like I listened to the EP and there's a huge jump from that to this release. So I will not be surprised in the slightest when they drop their next release and it's another kind of level up. I really enjoyed this. I'm thoroughly looking forward to hearing what they do next. What about yourself? What did you make it?
So did you say these guys self-released this?
Self-released, yeah.
Right, well, there's record labels and A&R people dropping the ball right now, so like hopefully someone will rectify that. This is so fucking confident, man, honestly. Granted, there are some things from the PR, once again, just flagging, don't read the PR. That's not me telling you not to read the PR, that's me saying I don't read the PR. So I know very little about any of the music that we listen to, unless it's a band I am familiar with or have heard of before.
Yeah.
So listening to this, I just assumed like a healthy back catalogue of albums and maybe more than two people in the band, and I couldn't have been any more wrong if I tried. Even a little bit. The thing that stuck out to me was, like you mentioned Mastodon. I'm glad that they mentioned Cave-In, because there's a bit of Cave-In in there as well. Especially like Cave-In's melody, whilst it is aggressive, it has a tendency to soar. And the melodies in this soar. He will hit a note and just let it go. Once again, like everything on this, it's controlled and it's measured. It's not like throw every bit of breath to hit this note or stretch to the point where my voice is about to break. It always feels very deliberate, very well placed, and it has there's different textures in it. There's a kind of breathy tone he hits in the quieter moments, which is just my jam, man. I love those moments when the music just gets a little bit softer, the drums get a little bit quieter, there's some cleaner sounds on the guitar, a little bit of that echoey reverb, and then a kind of breathy vocal. It's just fucking wonderful. So very much like yourself, I was digging a lot of this. It did. The Mastodon thing did kind of grab me pretty quickly. I am a huge Mastodon fan, so I'm not saying these sound like Mastodon, but like if this was in my Apple Genius, like selecting bands, other music things are out there that do. I don't know how you even word that. Spotify and other evil organisations. If it was out there on that, I imagine they would do a similar thing in that they feel almost adjacent. You're right to point out there are big differences here. The big differences are that I find that Semuta have a little bit more of a softer edge about them, and that's a good thing because it allows them to really experiment with those textures that you want. Like, it's proggy, but it's soft, and I like that as a textural thing that I think just gives them an extra string in their bow. I also think as well the flow of the album is really good. Like, considering we're all talking long form tracks, the shortest one here is about this opening track's about 5.5 minutes. Longest track is the closing one, which is over 9 minutes, and the ones in between are all about the 7.5 minute mark. So it's not like they're playing it safe on release number one. They're going out with the long form tracks, and the danger with doing that is that unless you are super confident that your songs are going to connect and hit, that they might just feel like kind of what we're doing here. I never got that in any of the listens at all, and very much like yourself, by the end of A Selected Memory, I was kind of at a point where I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. This is it's like a breath of fresh air. Reminds me of a lot of music that I'm enjoying at the moment. And then track 5 kicked in, and I was like, that an album of this, like it's the one where they do the old kind of, it's the final track. Let's flex a little muscle here. But I think they're really good at painting pictures. I think this one here has a lot of texture, a lot of tone. It's very tactile to listen to. It's whimsical, dreamy, and hypnotic in parts. And I was floored by it. It's one of my favourite closers on an album I've heard this year. I just think it kind of made me swoon while listening to it. I think it's excellent. And I actually think, even though I don't want every track to be 9 minutes 20, I would say moving forward, if they want to do more of that, once again, to use Mastodon as an example, they're a band that went from kind of showing a little bit of that on their earlier releases, kind of doing a little bit more by the time they got to Blood Mountain, and by the time you got to Crack the Sky, it was this just like huge episodic like masterclass in kind of prog sludge. And I actually think listening to Wounds of the Stem, they could do a lot of that. So it really makes me excited about where they go next. Like, and I don't want to kind of undersell this one here, but I think these guys have a huge amount of potential, like, moving forward. So yeah, I had a ball with this. The last thing I would mention is, for a two-piece, it sounds huge. The production is great. As always, that kind of mastering quality on there sounds pretty good. And the mix is just right. So yeah, if you like your sludge, even if you like your heavy sludge, there's plenty going on here to bring you over, especially on the guitar tones. If you like your prog, I would say check this out as well. I think there's plenty going on in terms of the kind of the journeys they take you through the tracks. Use the J word. But I would say just in general, if you're looking for something to switch on and just like sink into, Glacial Erratic is the album to do it with. It's very, 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 very well put together. For a debut, it's even more remarkable, regardless how many bands have been in before. This one here just sounds like a band that are meant to be. So
nice. Final thing, scores for Glacial Erratic. There's a lot to enjoy on this. Like, if you are a fan of sludge or progressive sludge bands like Mastodon and Cave In and stuff, then definitely give this a listen. There's a lot here you'll like. As you mentioned, production is excellent. Scott Evans always does a fantastic job, and Brad is like the king of mastering, so you can't go wrong there. To be honest, for most of the album, I was probably sitting about a 4 out of 5. That last track was like, this is where it's going to go. Like, I feel like the next release is going to kind of step up to that kind of last track. But I think overall, I think a 4 is fair on this one for me. I feel like the majority of the album probably sits about that until the last track where it kind of creeps up. But overall, I'm going to 4 out of 5. What are you thinking?
I'm exactly there with you. I think like, we are not this band showing potential specifically on the final track, but just this early on in their career as this entity. I think we're going to be waiting long before we're like that. Well, this is a 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just throwing there, like, obviously this is a 5. Who's saying it isn't? Yeah. I think they've got all the tools and they show all the promise. I think it's just a case of a little bit more refinement, and we are good to go. So it's a 4 from me, and it's a great album. So check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Drops on May 24th. Links below to the band, to the Bandcamp, the pre-order and all that. Check it out, have a listen, see what you think. Let us know, stick some comments in. That is our review. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.